Hey guys, it's Monday night and that must mean that it's time for Let's Talk About. So tonight we are going to talk about
Palo Santo and whether it's sustainable or not.
Okay, big question. So let me just roll the music.
I don't know how we're going to sing that, but
We can always sing it. Here we go.
Yo, I don't think we should talk about this.
Actually, I think we should. We're coming to you all the way from Ecuador in South America. So that's pretty exciting. We've been down here for Platinum Retreat. Here we go. You ready? Let's talk about Palo Santo
and whether it's sustainable.
You and me. Let's talk about
All the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about
Palo Santo. Palo Santo. Palo Santo. Palo Santo. Okay. So, I just got my hand caught in the computer there. Alrighty. So we are in Ecuador, which is in South America. We're actually in the city of Guayaquil, and the reason why we're talking, there's a couple of reasons why we're talking about Palo Santo. One is that we actually just visited the Young Living farm, which we'll talk about in a second. And why are we talking about sustainability? We'll come back to it, but just quickly.
So there's a lot of stuff going around on social media at the moment about stop using Palo Santo, and we just want to allay some of your fears.
And can I just start by saying that I think there's very valid reasons why people are talking about that. So anyway, let's talk about Palo Santo. We actually have a special
Platinum edition
Palo Santo. We're so excited about that. I just got to show this. So Young Living, as always, they gave us this gift, and so it's got some ylang-ylang. So we actually got to plant and harvest ylang-ylang. It's got some whatever that is, lemongrass. It's got some dorado azul, which we'll talk about. It's got some mastranti. Now, I don't know nothing about that. And it's also got some eucalyptus blue. So that's
all the oils they grow on the farm. But we're going to talk about that in a few weeks.
I'll tell you a secret. They also grow vetiver there, and oregano. So Palo Santo, if you don't know about it's actually a tree. It comes from the same botanical family as frankincense. And the name Palo Santo is Spanish. It actually means sacred wood.
Holy wood.
Or holy wood, yeah. So that kind of gives you an idea. Not Hollywood, but Hollywood. And that actually gives you some ideas about the history of it, because it was used by the Incas to clear negative energy in their ceremonies, still used today by a shaman in the Andes in their religious ceremonies. So it's got quite a history in terms of that kind of clearing negative energy, spiritual sort of oil. So it's kind of a cool oil.
And I guess when we talk about cleansing energy, a lot of the uses, and this is part of the reason why people are concerned about the sustainability, is because a lot of people use it for smudging. So clearing the energy in homes or yoga spaces or massage rooms, all that kind of stuff. Also for clearing your crystals or your jewelry, basically just purifying and cleansing the environment of that negative energy. But it's also good for inspiring creativity, raising your frequency or your vibration, so that you're able to, similar to frankincense that we use to get more in touch with the earth and our divine spirit, whatever you particularly believe in. Evoking protection. A lot of people use the smudging Palo Santo sticks or even incense. You can get Palo Santo incense to actually provide protection, to bring in love and good fortune. It's certainly one of those oils. You can use it before and after meditation, particularly that's why like with the incense sticks. But even for setting and sealing in intentions. So if you're a person who does a lot of affirmations or sets intentions, you can actually use Palo Santo for that.
Okay, so no wonder it's so popular. That's definitely the case. From a chemical point of view, it's high in limonene. So in fact, the Young Living stuff has somewhere between 45 and 80% limonene. So look up limonene. It's got amazing health benefits. So you can use Palo Santo topically. So you could put it on.
Dilute it.
Yeah, dilute it. Not to be used with children under 18 months, And if you're pregnant, then you should talk to your doctor about it before you use it. You can also diffuse it, obviously, and that would be ideal for
meditation and protection and all
yeah.
that kind of stuff. So instead of using the smudging sticks and the incense to do all the things I talked about before, you could diffuse the oil.
Absolutely. So that's the oil. Amazing oil, smells fantastic. But why the big deal about sustainability?
Well, I know that some of you have sent me the article from an influencer in the US saying, like, she started a campaign basically to stop everyone using Palo Santo, and then recently I've seen on Facebook that there's health food shops in Australia saying we're not going to sell Palo Santo anymore, and the reason is because it's not sustainable, because it is one of those trees similar to rosewood and spikenard that have been, and even Indian sandalwood, that have been so over harvested that there aren't that many trees in the world anymore, and they're on the verge of becoming extinct.
So the $6 million question, and it's a good question, is what the hell is Young Living doing selling Palo Santo essential oil? How can they do that if it's so endangered?
Well, and you know, Gary was a visionary, so he knew way back when, like when he bought the farm, he had Palo Santo trees on the farm. So in some cases the trees were relocated, like they have a Palo Santo forest, and in that forest is a whole heap of Palo Santo trees that were growing there.
We're actually going to cut some pictures in of our visit to the Palo Santo forest, so as we go. So
the thing about the forest is that Young Living have planted a whole heap more trees. So a lot of the trees on the Young Living farm, the Palo Santo trees, are 10 years old because they planted them 10 years ago, because Gary, you know, was concerned then about the future of Palo Santo and being able to deliver this really great, amazing oil to our members. So they already started their sustainability effort to do that. Now, the other thing is that there really isn't very much oil in a Palo Santo tree when it's just living and in the forest. The benefits come from when the tree has died and has laid on the ground for anywhere between 2 to 10 years. The longer it lays on the ground, the better, but Young Living usually sort of harvest it between 2 to 4 years. So it's the dead wood. It's not like they're going out into the forest and cutting down the trees.
Yeah.
No way, that's not what they do. They wait till they die,
Yeah.
they fall on the ground, or even just the dead branches fall off the trees and they collect those. So
okay, so the issue really, and this is the case with a number of endangered species of trees and plants around the world, is that because there's such a high demand, unscrupulous people will go out and they'll cut down the Palo Santo trees to harvest the oil. Two problems with that is, one, obviously that's not sustainable, and number two is the yield is so much lower from the trees, so it's like a double whammy. They're cutting down trees which they can't replace quickly, but also they're not getting the same amount of Palo Santo. So I think the great thing which we saw, so Young Living, they source their Palo Santo two ways. One is they have their own trees now, but the Palo Santo that they have sourced in the past, they have done from dead trees. So we heard from the farm manager, Nicholas, who talked about taking one of the Young Living compliance people out, and after I think they had to drive for 10 hours.
6 or 8, I
and
can't remember.
yeah, I think it was drive for 10 hours and then walk for another 6, lower down the side of a mountain to actually find these dead Palo Santo trees. And so they, in a sense, they source it ethically, because the only place that they're getting it from is dead Palo Santo trees. So you'll actually see in the footage that we have that the trees are upright. Nicholas, the farm manager, talked about how they have quite shallow roots. So if there's heavy rain, strong wind, that's what can actually knock them over. But even that doesn't necessarily kill the tree. So
Young Living stands them back up.
yeah. So there's actually a tree on the property which has been knocked over, but the roots still go into the ground, so it's still alive. So they're still
they haven't harvested.
They haven't harvested it. Yeah. So it needs to be there for 2 to 4 years at least. Nicholas was saying that if you get a chunk of Palo Santo wood, you can crack it in half, and around the outside you'll find the dried, basically dust, wood dust. But then on the inside there's this yellowy wood, and that's where the essential oil is found.
And it's a really, really fragrant wood. It's like the world's most fragrant wood. It's got like this mix of citrus and mint to it. So it's like wood that smells like citrus and mint, and it's very, very fragrant. So, and I guess some of you might be thinking, well, but if like Young Living is harvesting the trees, like if everyone stopped buying Palo Santo, then there wouldn't be a need for people to be it's like the elephant industry, you know, like people wouldn't cut off elephant tusks if there weren't people out there buying it. But Young Living is really, really concerned about the sustainability long term, and that's why they're planting these forests of Palo Santo, so that they can have trees into the future. So
the other interesting fact which I found was, again, Nicholas, the farm manager, talked about the yield that comes from Palo Santo, and it's actually one of the highest yielding plants in the world as far as essential oils go. So to give you a comparison, Dorado Azul is another essential oil that comes from the Young Living farm. It comes from a plant. It takes about 5 tons of Dorado Azul plants to produce 4 to 6 litres of essential oil. Right? 5 tons to 4 to 6 litres. But 2 tons of Palo Santo wood will produce 100 litres of essential oil. That's 20,000 5ml bottles. Okay, so he was talking about the last time Young Living actually distilled Palo Santo was 2 years ago, and they produced almost 3,000 litres of it. So that's 600,000 5ml bottles. He said that Young Living won't need to be distilling Palo Santo again for probably 4 to 6 years. So basically the stuff that they're selling at the moment is from distillation 2 years ago, dead trees, and it's going to last us for a long, long time into the future. Probably until those Palo Santo trees that Young Living are actually growing on the property. They take about 10 years to mature, so that's even before they actually fall down and die. So it's a long process. But I guess we wanted just to talk about the fact that they are doing it sustainably and they are doing it ethically, and
and they want to teach, you know, other people how to grow these trees, so that Young Living's farm isn't the only one out there that are, you know, actually growing these trees, and that rather than sourcing the Palo Santo from the wild, because wild crafting is not always sustainable, and we've certainly seen that with things like rosewood and sandalwood and spikenard. When they go out into the forest and they continually harvest from the wild, it actually makes it really not sustainable, because then people take advantage of that and over harvest it. So Young Living, in their environment, like their sustainability efforts, are actually farming it instead. So it's going to be here for the longer term rather than pillaging the beautiful forests here in Ecuador.
Absolutely. It was pretty exciting to be out there walking around through the Palo Santo trees. It was a special place, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
Alrighty, so Palo Santo, Young Living has the best, and you can buy it without any worries or concerns that there's something dodgy going on. It's by far the best option.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys, we will see you next time. Again, we're still in Ecuador for a couple more weeks, so we'll see you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.